In the Greek world, this word Kurios was used in more than one way. The word Lord. In its widest use, in its simplest use, all the term Kurios meant was sir, like a formal way of saying Mr. If a man says something to me here in this room, I'll say, "What did you say, sir?" Or, "Sir, would you do this?" Or, "Sir, would I say?" That's just a normal way of speaking where we're trying to show courtesy and respect to people. But in the English language, we also have a sense in which we use that title, sir, in a more elevated way, isn't it? How about Sir Winston Churchill, Sir Laurence Olivier, Sir Galahad, or so on. Now, we're not just talking about anybody called Mr. Now we're talking about somebody who's up another notch in the social register. They have been granted peerage. They have been made knights of the kingdom. And they are in a special elite group now that they're called Sir in that degree. Well, that's what's going on with this title, Kurios. There is the normal sense in which Kurios was simply a form of polite address, and that's difficult for us when we read the New Testament because Jesus will meet a stranger for the first time. And they'll say to him, "Lord, would you come to our house for dinner?" And you scratch your head and you say, how does that person know that Jesus is Lord? I mean, they've never met him before. Well, in all probability, they didn't know that Jesus was Lord in the way we speak of Jesus as Lord, but that the writer is just being faithful to the formal way of addressing people. It's just like he said, "Sir, would you come home with me?" And there was a second way in which the title Kurios was used in biblical days. And it was as a title for someone who owned slaves, a slave owner. Now, a slave was called a doulos, and plural was douloi. So in order to be a kurios in the sense of a slave owner, you had to own slaves. And usually when that word is meant in the New Testament, the writers will translate it master. You know how sometimes the Bible people will call Jesus master? And Paul identifies himself, for example, how? Paul, a servant or a slave of Jesus Christ. Or they'll say that we are not our own, but we have been bought with a price. We belong to Jesus. He is our master. We are his servants. So that secondary meaning of the term Lord is sprinkled throughout the New Testament to show our relationship to Jesus. Now here's where it gets a little complicated. In addition to the normal sir, that second level of slave owner, there is what we call the imperial use of the title Kurios in biblical days. And here, in its imperial sense, it is used only for one who is deemed to be the supreme sovereign, the supreme ruler. And it's that imperial use of Kurios that corresponds to the Hebrew concept of Adonai that we read here in Psalm 110. And so a Greek would look at that and he would say, God says to my imperial Lord, sit thou at my right hand.